Welcome back everyone, Keyline Bai here. I've noticed a lot of people having trouble with Simulated Universe World 3, so I want to make this video showcasing some tips as well as a fully commentated run while using the starter characters that everyone has for free at primarily level 40 while utilizing the Path of Remembrance build or the Freeze build. Although I use these starter characters for my showcases for World 3 through 5, you absolutely don't have to use these characters. There's a lot of different alternatives you can use, but you do want to follow the standard rule of a team composition of typically a healer or shielder as well as a tank. And if you don't want to use a tank, you can use a shielder, which is why we have March 7th and Natasha, 1 DPS or 2 DPSs. If you're going to use a 2 DPS composition, I would recommend 1 single target, 1 AoE DPS. Otherwise, you can use a supporter and 1 DPS. And that supporter here in this composition is Asta. I want to take a brief moment going over the main blessings you should be on the lookout for to achieve a freeze cheese under the Path of Remembrance. So the main one you should be looking for is the Foolie card. When attacking frozen enemies, there's a 100% base chance to inflict disassociation for 1 turn. What this ends up doing is when an enemy is unfrozen after they have this debuff on them, they'll take damage based on their max HP. If you end up finding this card pretty early on, you can end up going for this card here, Reticence, where after an enemy is attacked 6 times, they have a 120% base chance to become frozen for 1 turn. This is helpful if you bring no cryo characters on the team or a cryo character that doesn't hit very often or have a good freeze chance. Now, if you don't get this card early on and you're given these 2 as an option, I would recommend you choose this card here unless you have some solid damage. If you have good damage, then you can definitely pick this card to be able to keep in a freeze lock and just beat them down with your own power. Now, if you don't have good power, this card can be used where after an enemy is broken or their shield is broken, there's a 100% base chance to apply disassociation on the enemy for 1 turn. Now, bosses have pretty thick shields, so that's why this one isn't an absolute priority. It's much better to just hit a target that's frozen to be able to apply that debuff on them. Some other important cards you want to look for are the 2-star cards that deal with disassociation as well too, such as Dizziness, where increases the damage taken by enemies with disassociation by 36%, as well as the more important one of the card right over here called Melancholia, where attacking an enemy with disassociation will remove disassociation and deal damage equal to 150% of the disassociation removal damage. So what this allows you to do is apply disassociation, then remove it, then reapply it, then remove it, all while they're continually frozen to continually do maximum HP damage to them over and over again. Another card you may want to look out for is this one here. After the debuff is removed from an enemy, there's a 50% chance to freeze the enemy for 1 turn. Another thing you want to keep in mind is when you are nearing the boss room, you do want to keep some cosmic fragments so that you can level up some of these important cards. Now, you don't absolutely have to do them, but they can make your run a little bit more consistent if you do upgrade this one to freeze them every 5 turns, or you can speed up your run by picking up this one so that they take even more damage, or this one so that they take even more damage, or this one here so that they end up gaining a higher chance to get refrozen as well too. As for the ability tree, the more nodes you do have, the easier Simulated Universe runs are, but I will say the bare minimum you should maybe look to have is going to be the Reset Blessings node. When selecting a blessing of the Simulated Universe after defeating enemies, you can consume Cosmic Fragments, which is 30 Cosmic Fragments, to reset the blessings for 1 time only. This is exceptionally helpful when you have defeated an elite enemy and you get presented the choice of a 3-star blessing guaranteed, and you don't end up getting a Path of Remembrance blessing. Since the Path of Remembrance 3-star blessings are some of the most crucial blessings for your run, anything that deals with resetting blessings is going to be super helpful, including something such as a Curio or an event that allows you to change out one of your blessings. Luckily, this blessing node or this ability node is fairly early on in the tree, so you won't have to do too many Simulated Universe runs to be able to obtain this. And keep in mind that you can do any of the Simulated Universe worlds to be able to get ability tree points. So if you want, you can always auto battle one of the lower runs to just get the full run done, or you can continue to do the world that you're stuck on over and over again, because even if you fail or decide to quit early, you still will get ability tree points. I want to take a quick moment to go over some of the things you should know about the elite and boss monsters of this world. If you did not know, there are 4 different elite monsters you can end up fighting in each of the worlds, but you will only typically fight 2 of them in each world. For the first elite monster, we have Silvermane Lieutenant Bug, who has the ability to summon soldiers to his side, which I believe he does summon 4 soldiers, 2 on each side of himself. And he does have a counter stance, where if you do attack him, he will retaliate back and do large single target damage. The next one you should be worrying about is Searing Prowler, who does have a stance where he charges up his giant blade and will hit one target and hit the adjacent targets to it. So what you should be looking to do is having a tank on the far left or right side of your team composition, and somebody who can take a bit of damage next to that tank. If you are bringing March 7th, remember that March 7th's shield does increase the chance of getting targeted by an attack, so be aware who the person you're shielding has next to them. Same type of issue, Automation Direwolf has a chainsaw blade that will get into a charged up stance, so you do want to be careful of the damage that can come out from that. Luckily enough though, if you do end up freezing any of these enemies, including this Void Ranger Trampler who has a charge up bow stance that has very high damage, it can help skip the damage that you end up taking, especially if you can hold off until you break them with these weaknesses. As you can see here, a lot of the enemies here, including Gepard, are weak to physical, as well as these two are weak to cryo, electro, and imaginary. When you are fighting Gepard, he will bring out a set of soldiers, 1 on each side of himself, on each of the phases. They do not get respawned, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong about that. But the one thing you do want to watch out for is on phase 2 and phase 3, he does have a large shield that he does activate. If you can freeze him, you can choose to you can potentially delay it and deal more damage, or just kill him before he can use the shielding skill. But this large shield will be a AoE shield that covers his entire team, but it all shares 1 health pool, so it doesn't matter who you end up attacking, and if you do have AoE damage, it can be very helpful. And in my experience, the shield is not recasted once again if you do end up breaking it during phase 2 and in phase 3, so if you can end up having a team comp that is a little bit more durable to survive and chip away at the shield, that is good, but bear in mind that all bosses will get an increased damage stack after every turn, so you can't just take the longest amount of time possible to break the shield. For this run, we're going to be using March 7th, Natasha, Asta, and Heng, which are all free characters, and we'll be selecting the Path of Remembrance or the Freeze Path. To start off this run, we're going to be selecting 1 free Curio at the beginning, and we're going to pick the Galactic Big Lotto ticket. During this video, we'll be skipping a lot of the combat battles because we are going to be auto-battling them all, and you don't need to see that little short fight. And for this first combat, we do end up getting a Blessing of Remembrance on the right side. And the second set does not have a Blessing of Remembrance, so we end up resetting our blessings, and we immediately pick that middle blessing. I typically don't even read what the blessings do. If they are saying that's Remembrance, I end up picking it. And on that second barrel, as you saw there, we did get a bonus free Curio. That Curio takes away 30% of the max HP of the targets when entering a battle. On this next set, we have Remembrance on the far left, so we immediately picked that. And with the 3 Remembrance cards picked, we get our Path skill, which allows us to get an AoE freeze. Next up, we have a 2-star Remembrance once again, right out the bat, so we go and pick that. And we get to our Divergence path, where we're going to be always picking combat when given the choice, because combat is a lot easier to maintain, especially on auto battle routes, and always guarantees us cosmic fragments to upgrade our cards and reset our blessings, buy equipment, as well as gives us more blessing choices to be able to get more freeze related cards. And over here, after resetting on the right, we do get another freeze card. The reason why I say just keep it simple and pick all the cards of the same path you chose. For example, we chose Path of Remembrance here. So anytime where you find a card, we're going to just pick Path of Remembrance. There are times you can take a moment to read and pick the more appropriate card, such as this point here where there's 2 choices. And here I'm going to be choosing the one where if I deal ice damage, I deal ice damage to someone adjacent to them. On our second set, we picked the far right 2-star Remembrance card, and for our Path Resonance upgrade, we're going to choose the Ionian River card. We get to our very first boss battle, which is the Big Sword Man. This is the one you want to make sure you have proper team positioning for, because when he does target an enemy, or target one of your characters, he will typically be attacking the characters adjacent to it. So put your tank on the far right. We're going to reset here because we didn't get a 3-star Remembrance, but on our reset, we did get one on the right. And here we have the choice between Faith Bond and Space Time Cheese. Space-Time Cheese is good because it does give a free Eidolon or Constellation to your characters, but since I'm using the 4-star starter characters, it doesn't help me much, so I chose the one that gave us Cosmic Fragment discounts. Here we're gonna pick a Cosmic Curio just in case we can get some Fortune Glue, Coloring Paste, or something beneficial to us. That Curio that we ended up picking, I believe, is the one that upgrades all our 1-star choices to an enhanced variant of them. Here we have the freeze on the right, so we immediately pick that one and save our Cosmic Fragments. We just pick the middle card and move on. Here we're going to increase the chance of the freeze to be able to work. If you do have a damage over time, definitely feel free to take the other Path Resonance upgrade card. And here our Galactic Lotto ticket broke, but we are using the Wildfire Light Cone that is free to obtain on March 7th. That gives us 35% healing of missing HP when we enter a battle. We end up picking that middle freeze card and moving into the next combat. Make sure you destroy all the destructibles, even if you don't need them. Whenever you find them, the the healing pods, the technique pods, the barrels, all that, in case you get a Curio that does benefit you with previously destroying destructibles. Here we don't get anything, so we end up resetting, and nothing once more. So we're probably going to be looking for something that helps our survivability if we are a little bit underleveled, or gives us more speed, because we may want to have more turns to be able to have more chances to freeze. But at the end there, we chose the 2-star Abundance card for, I believe, survivability. Here is the next elite, which is another big chainsaw swordman. So same rule kind of applies of just being aware of who has the aggro. Here we have no freeze 3-star, so we refresh again. And then this one here is actually the really good one that you should be looking for. That gives us more damage when we have disassociation applied. Here we have the choice between Doctor's Robe and Reduction Die. Doctor's Robe is just chosen here to help make our runs faster, because at the start of every battle, our Path Resonance skill is fully charged. And as you see on the screen, Dan Heng actually ended up dying in that elite fight, but that's okay as long as you have the Reviver ability node, which is like the second big node in the ability tree anyways. Here we end up just picking another Curio. We're checking to see how many Curios and what Curios we have in case we want to reset. And so we don't pick the Shining Die. We end up picking the one that gives us 1 free reset blessing, even though there's not many battles or choices left. Here we have the choice of an already enhanced 2-star. And this one's actually really good. This one removes disassociation and deals damage equal to 200% of the removal. And that's really good because if I have a frozen target, I can apply disassociation by hitting them with that 3-star blessing I had earlier, and I can remove it for damage. And then since they're still frozen, I can reapply the debuff again and then remove it over and over to continually cycle max HP % damage. Here I have the choice between Transaction and I believe Encounter, and I just decided to go for the safer option, even though our build is extremely strong at this point. And we have the choice of spending Cosmic Fragments, but I think I choose not to take Cosmic Fragments because I want to keep the... I choose not to buy anything because I want to keep the 250 Cosmic Fragments we have to enhance some of the cards that we already ended up picking up. So here with only 250 fragments, we normally can't do a whole lot, but because we picked up the Curio that gives us discounts, we actually can pick quite a few things. Since a 3-star normally does cost 160 Cosmic Fragments to upgrade, but with that Curio that we got, it was 112. And the blessing we ended up upgrading was the one where when we break an enemy shield, they get disassociation applied to them. As I've said previously, that break, the shield break into disassociation is not so great because bosses usually have a pretty thick shield, but if you do have very good break characters, it can be pretty useful. Moving on to the boss, we have Gepard here. Gepard on every phase does summon adds of increasing difficulty, or summons additional monsters is what I should say. But luckily we have him frozen at the very beginning, and you'll see here we end up using our chain freezes over and over on auto actually. So it's not me who decided that, because normally I would not use all of our skills like that. But that's okay. Phase 1 is immediately over before he even has a chance to summon his monsters. And for this fight, you want to make sure that you are able to put March 7th's shield on preferably your DPS or your tankiest character. That way, March 7 is able to continually counterattack, and you have the ability to potentially freeze with your counter as well. The more ice-based characters you have, the better or more consistent your run can be, unless you pick up some of the freeze cards that do benefit or do give the ability to freeze when you don't have any ice damage. There is a 3-star card that when you hit a target 6 times, they do get frozen, as well as there's another 2-star card that gives a % chance to freeze when hitting an enemy as well. As you can see here, all these enemies' HP are absolutely becoming shredded because we have that 3-star debuff card and the 2-star card that removes the debuff and does more damage. Now phase 2 is over and entering phase 3, which has the counter minions. And you can see that there, the one blessing that does adjacent damage to enemies when hit with cryo damage is kind of helping out there. And March 7th's ultimate does freeze the right enemy. Sadly, we weren't able to hit him to apply disassociation, but we're pretty comfy here at this point. Asta's ulti is going to help us get speed up and move our turns forward. And this should be the end of the battle here because they are frozen. I guess not. But all this damage that you see coming out here is absolutely not from the characters themselves. My characters are roughly level 40 stats all around, as you'll see after we finish this run. It's all from the blessing itself. I do recommend, if you do this run, to kill the side monsters first because they can add up. Just make sure that you are trying to keep Gepard frozen as best as you can, though. And just in case you're unable to beat World 3 or World 2 or whichever world you are currently on, I wouldn't worry about it too much because every time you do any part of a run, you'll get ability points that will help build up your ability tree. The most important node of the ability tree for doing this run is getting the reset blessing, which I believe is the 3rd big node. So once you have that, it'll help you get your remembrance cards a lot easier so you can stack freeze synergy. Here you can see all the character levels, which were level 40 except March 7th was 49, but I'll show you how I balance those stats later. All the light cones are free 4-star light cones, except for Asta does have a gotcha one that I didn't know about until I finished this challenge, and they are level 40. The traces were all 3, 3, 3, 2, and the relics are all free relics that you can get from doing quests, chests, and shop purchases. And if you saw earlier, March 7th had 3-star plus 0 relics to make up for the fact that she was level 49, so her stats were level 40 or lower than the level 40 characters. I think I did end up taking a lot of our accessories off, or at least giving plus 0 accessories for this run as well too, to kind of help simulate somebody who has not farmed accessories yet. Here we give a short rundown of some of the blessings we end up getting, so you can kind of take a look and read and see if you think any of these blessings were absolutely critical for the run itself. But as I said, the debuff related cards are the most important ones, as well as effective hit rate so that you have a higher chance to freeze, lowering down their effect resistance. The entering battle for chance to freeze is also really huge so that we don't have to take time to build up a freeze as well with something like March 7th or Path Resonance skill. And you'll see here our curios or equipment. Although most of the curios we found on this run were moderately helpful, I will say none of them were absolutely critical for making this run successful. There are two Curios you should be on the lookout for and pick if you do come across them. The first one is the Wax of Remembrance, which gives you a random rarity of a Remembrance Blessing upon picking it up, as well as increases the probability of getting a Blessing of Remembrance when you do have the choice of selection. The next one that is more important in my opinion is the Fortune Glue that looks like a tube of paste with a black icon on it. Will guarantee you a 3-star blessing on your next battle. This is very helpful if you have not been able to be fortunate enough to be able to get the 3-star disassociation blessings or even the 6-hit freeze one, as the 3-star blessings in the Remembrance Path are very, very, very crucial and helpful to be able to making your run successful. If you don't end up getting a single 3-star Remembrance blessing, it's very unlikely you will be completing the run unless you can just rely on raw power to be able to kill off the enemies, or you have a good amount of ice characters that can apply freeze over and over again to just keep them perma-frozen. That's going to be all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful in you completing Simulated Universe World 3. If you do need additional help, feel free to swing by my Twitch channel where I do play Honkai Star Rail and give tips and team recommendations. Alternatively, feel free to comment down below if you have any questions for Simulated Universe World 3 or Honkai Star Rail in general. Make sure you leave a like on this video and join our Discord community player of our Honkai Star Rail player base. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.